Hello everyone, welcome back to the RePlay podcast, and we have quite a bit of news happening over the weekend. Everyone seems to be losing their minds over the casting for the Batman. Robert Pattinson, of course, being considered for the role, and I happen to fall into, and while it's been reported as confirmation as fact by a lot of news outlets, Warner Brothers has not confirmed anything as yet. So for the moment, it's mere speculation on our part, right? And I happen to fall into the camp of one of the few persons who actually enjoyed Twilight. Right? Twilight, at the time it was released, the fantasy genre, it wasn't necessarily doing very well. And however you may feel about the film itself, it actually helped to kind of revitalize that genre. We saw TV shows like True Blood and Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf that followed after, right? So for what it managed to accomplish in terms of getting, the not so typical audience to tune in and to give movies like this a fair chance. That's for that much we do have to give it credit for. And again, it's in terms of acting and writing, it wasn't the most intricate film that you've ever seen. I don't think anyone's arguing that point, but at the same time we do have to give credit where credit is due, right? So I enjoyed it for what it was in terms of Robert Pattinson himself. I saw him initially from Harry Potter. Did enjoy his role in Twilight, and he has been in, for those of you who feel that he may need to redeem himself in the public's eyes, I don't think that's necessary, but he's been in a number of smaller films since then, the High Life being one, and these are dramatic roles which have demonstrated the range that he has to offer. He was also in Cosmopolis, where he plays a billionaire, which is not too far off from what the Bruce Wayne role is. And I know it goes a lot deeper than that, but just to show that he has been in a number of these roles where a lot of persons just have not seen, right? But as an actor, he's very much capable, right? And the other thing to consider being that, as I mentioned, at the time when Twilight came out, while it wasn't critically received, the audiences loved it, right? At the moment, I do believe the first Twilight film still has at least a 70% Rotten Tomatoes score on Rotten Tomatoes. And most of I believe all the films range somewhere between 65 and 75% in terms of their rating. And again, not the critics, but the audience themselves enjoyed it. And I think we've learned at this point that just because a critic says something is not good doesn't make it so, right? Outside of even the critics or Rotten Tomatoes score in general, each Twilight film actually did better than its predecessor, right? With the last film, Breaking Dawn, grossing over 800 million worldwide, right? And that is impressive, right? Now, in terms of casting in general, this is the DCEU, and while a lot of people have mixed feelings about the direction the films and the universe itself as a whole has been going, we do have to admit that DC has nailed it each time in terms where casting is concerned. Now, I'm a huge fan of Ben Affleck's take on the Batman character so far. Through the Batman films have been released over time, all the films that have been released, at least in my perspective, we've had either someone being a very good Bruce Wayne or a very good Batman. We've never had, in my opinion, someone be both at the same time, right? And for me, Affleck was the very first to accomplish that, right? And that's more so because he had something personal in Batman vs Superman, something personal to deal with, and so we got those moments where Bruce had to. We saw the loss that he had experienced after 20 years wearing the cowl, right? And you needed someone who could carry that, and Affleck is a phenomenal actor, and he did it, right? So for me, he was the first to accomplish that, and so with this casting now, my only concern would be whether or not Pattinson can. I believe he will be a good Bruce Wayne. My concern is whether or not he will be a good Batman, right? So it's to move from Ben Affleck, who managed to, for me personally, managed to accomplish both these roles. If we're going to pass that call on to someone else, it's a big shoe to fill, and they'll be expected to do the same, right? Not go make us go step backwards and only do one, well. They'll need to accomplish both, just as Affleck has. It's a similar situation with Heath Ledger, but at the same time, using Heath Ledger as a point here as well. When Heath was initially cast as the Joker, people lost their minds just the same, and no one felt that he was up to par to play that role. He didn't know the part. He didn't have the laugh. His facial features didn't fit what the character traditionally looks like, and so people had a lot of question marks about what his performance would be like. And he blew them out of the water, right? And he's now, ironically, the marker for performance for the Joker character. And so with that in mind, I do think we have to remain open to having new actors take a chance at it and see how well they can do. And as I said, the DCEU has not missed in terms of casting so far. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill as Superman, and Jason Momoa just killed it as Aquaman as well. And so their casting, irrespective of how you feel about their films, the casting has been spot on. Now, of course, the concern with this now being that all those castings were Zack Snyder's castings, and not necessarily, and he's no longer in the picture as far as we know, right? Matt Reeves is taking over for the Batman films, and so this is on him. This will be his decision, and this will be his casting. And again, I love the Planet of the Apes movies, so I do have high hopes for this. I do trust in Matt Reeves and his vision, and all we can do is hope for the best, right? Until then, though, as I've said initially, nothing has been finalized, and Robert Pattinson is only one of the many actors who are in the running. Nicholas Hoult is still, I believe it's between, the favorites are between these two, between Pattinson and Nicholas Hoult, who, of the two, and I enjoy Nicholas Hoult's roles, especially I loved him in Mad Max Fury Road, but of the two, I would, if those are the two that we are left with, I would have to go with Pattinson. Again, I have concerns as to how well he will fit into the Batman role. I think he would be a brilliant Bruce Wayne. But that remains to be seen, and all we can do for the moment is be optimistic and hope for the best. So on a more uplifting note, a bit of news where Disney is concerned. The announcement a few days ago that Disney now has complete operational control over Hulu. We've been expecting this announcement for quite some time, following their acquisition of Fox and majority control in Hulu. We suspected that Disney would need a platform to host more adult and mature rated content, right? While the Disney brand is strong, I believe they do acknowledge that they will need to appeal to more than just a specific audience type, and they'll need to offer content for all, right? Now the deal is not yet finalized, and it will not be until 2024. And there are a few caveats to the agreement, as there usually are with these contracts. Now it's a bit of you scratch my back, I scratch yours, where NBCU will be required to extend the contract for the content that they already have on Hulu. So that will extend up to 2024 as well. And the reverse is true, where NBCU can now, or they will be allowed to continue with Hulu on their Xfinity platform. So in this event, both parties win until the agreement is finalized, and until then, Comcast still maintains its shares in Hulu until the purchase is actually made, right? As for the impact on consumers, I touched on this a bit in a past podcast as well, and I still maintain, my views haven't changed because Disney's offerings haven't changed until then, since then. And my view then remains as it is now, in that I am for having a single platform where I can access content for both family and adult oriented content. And with that, Disney has not yet won me over with their streaming platform, right? I do believe that option should be available to customers. That is what we are paying for, and I believe in getting the most value from the subscription fee that I've paid, and I don't believe that option should come at the expense of the consumer. And where Disney is at now, that is essentially what I feel they're asking. Now, with majority control, or eventually when they do have complete control over Hulu, what they will then be asking consumers to do will be to pay a separate subscription fee for the family-oriented content, and a separate subscription fee to them that will essentially be Disney, once they've acquired Hulu, to pay them a separate fee for Hulu as well for more mature content. And that will be two separate platforms, two separate subscription fees that we'll be asked to pay. Now, I do know a lot of diehard Disney fans who will not be deterred by the additional fee, but for many of us who want to have a single payment process, a single platform where we can access a lot of the shows that we enjoy so much, it will matter, and it will be a deciding factor for many of us, right? And so Disney has not yet won me over because of that. I do hope that changes going in the future. Bob Iger has, following their announcement, he has hinted that they may do a bundle offer later on, combining both Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN at a reduced cost, of course. He didn't say whether they will exist on a single platform. It may just be a bundle, and you pay for the three services separately, and you get it at a reduced cost. However, again, this may be, whether it's reduced or not, unless it's less than what I'm currently paying for Hulu, then it will not have changed my views on the matter. So that is something that I'm looking forward to. I'm all for competition. I do believe it does it benefit the consumer to some extent, and if or when they do implement a single platform where consumers can go to and access content for all ages, all audiences, then I will be sold, right? The existence of Netflix has changed the playing field significantly, and Disney has now realized this. But as it is now, I do believe that Hulu and a lot of the Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, a lot of the existing streaming platforms do offer the ability to create a separate profile for kids, right, versus adults. So if it is a situation where we don't want kids viewing content that may not be appropriate for them, then you have that option. You have the ability to set up that option and keep them separate, rather than having two separate platforms and requiring that consumers pay in order to have that option available to them, right? So until then, I still maintain that Disney has not yet won me over, but I do hope that we see those changes going forward. And Disney Plus is still very much in its infancy, and it's still not launched yet as yet. We may very well see some changes coming down the pipeline, if not at launch, right? Be sure to post down in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, and hit like or subscribe. I will see you guys next time.